As we move deeper into the dark half of the year, our magic naturally turns toward protection. Tonight, we will be diving into how to create energetic boundaries that keep your energy safe, keep your space clear, and help keep your soul feel protected as you navigate these shifting energies. So, we'll talk about different forms of protection, magic, and warding, including visualization and simple energetic practices, as well as protective charms and everything in between. So, whether you are newer to warding or you have been using protective magic for a while, there will be something for everyone in tonight's episode. So, merry meet, I'm Aislin. This is Ask Aislin. And tonight we are here talking about warding and magical protection. So, welcome to those who are joining us live. Say hi in the chat. Let us know that you are here, and also let us know if the microphone is working. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to dive right in. But if you are with us live, remember to leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the video. This will help us get it out to the feed. You can do that if you're watching in replay as well. Every like helps us. And also you can leave questions and comments. We will have a Q&A at the end, and I'll be answering everyone's questions then. So let's dive in, and we are going to talk about warding. First, we're going to start with what warding is. And then we will get into the different ways that we can do it. And just a note, we will actually be having a second episode, I believe next week, if not the following week, where we will be talking about psychic protection. So what we're going to talk about tonight will mainly have to do with external protection. So protecting ourselves, kind of warding off energies. We'll talk about the difference between warding and just natural cleansing. But next week, we'll talk more about what to do if you feel like your energy gets pulled in a bunch of different directions, or as an empath or someone who is naturally sensitive to energies, you may feel that you are kind of under attack at times, or have difficult, you maybe get empathetic overwhelm. And so we'll be talking about how to address all of that next week. So let us dive right in, though, and let us talk about what warding is. So the first thing I do want to mention is that we don't want to approach this kind of work with fear in our hearts. So protection magic works best when we come from a place of strength and sovereignty and power. So this isn't about being afraid and having to like ward or protect ourselves because we're afraid. This is us protecting ourselves because we want to hold and keep our power and keep that strong. So, what is warding? So, warding is a magical or energetic a ward is a magical or energetic boundary that we create to intentionally protect ourselves, protect our space, protect our property, or to protect an object. Now, what is the difference between cleansing and warding? So, when we are doing cleansing, we are removing energy that doesn't belong. So we will be talking more about this in the next episode when we talk about psychic self-defense. Sometimes we're picking up other people's energy and we're carrying it around with us. So we'll learn ways to remove that. Cleansing will help us do that. Energetic cleansing will help us do that. We can also energetically cleanse a space. I think that people should energetically cleanse a space periodically. So whether that is at the dark moon or the new moon or the full moon or some cyclical moment that you choose to cleanse. This way it will help you remember to cleanse cyclically or at that same time, at that next part of the cycle. You could also do this. Some people do spring cleaning, right, or fall cleaning. So you could do this every time the wheel turns, and every Sabbath. You could do some kind of a cleansing of your home. It could be as simple as lighting some sage and taking it around your home. Sage is known to raise the vibration of a space. So energies that vibrate at lower vibrations are forced to exit, leaving only those higher vibrating energies behind. So that is one form of cleansing that's very easy. So I do recommend that people do that type of cleansing. That way you start from a cleansed space when you are actually starting the warding process. Now, when we are doing warding, what we are doing is we are trying to prevent unwanted energy from re-entering. So once we've cleansed the space or cleansed ourselves, We don't stay perpetually cleansed, just like with your body. You can't take like one shower in your life, right, and think you're cleansed. You're going to have to periodically shower or bathe. So, same thing with our energy. We want to periodically be doing warding, which helps us to just kind of structure our boundaries, strengthen them, make sure that they are secure, and then they will prevent any of that unwanted energy from returning and reattaching to us or reattaching to the space or the object or whatever it is that we are warding. So there is a spiritual psychology to this process. Your energy field is your aura. It is like the immune system of your spirit. So when you think about this analogy, think about your immune system of your physical body and what it does. So it's meant to attack invading particles or molecules or things that are entering the body, but not to attack itself or to attack helpful bacteria or helpful things that are in the body. So the same goes for warding. We don't want to remove all spiritual energy from around us. We just want to remove or prevent energy from attaching to us that is unwanted. Warding will help your aura or your like spiritual immune system stay strong and responsive. Just like if you were taking an immune booster, like for example, I take elderberry throughout the year, but especially during the darker half of the year to protect my physical immune system. So why wouldn't I also be doing some kind of practices that would protect my spiritual immune system, right? So it's like taking an immune booster when we do warding. It's like taking an immune booster, but for our spirit. Now, there are many different ways that we can do warding, and there's many different ways that warding has been done historically and culturally throughout the years. So, for example, witches' bottles are one way that you can do warding, and we will talk about witches' bottles a little bit later. I'm also going to share a link to a past episode where I go into more detail in witches' bottles and some other practices that we won't talk about as much tonight. That way, you'll have two different episodes that you can go to. Other ways that people have done warding or protective magic like this in the past are using iron horseshoes or protective runes carved into doorways. So sometimes these are found in places when um, uh, archaeologists are excavating old ruins. They'll find carvings in the doorways that were meant to protect all those who entered that space. The evil eye is also a way of warding, and I'm going to show you one of mine a little bit later when we talk about symbols. There are also protective amulets that you can make and that people in the past have made. So, archaeologists who excavate have found what appear to be protective charms and amulets in some ruins, suggesting that people were using these to protect the space. So, I think that when we put this in perspective of what has been done in the past and what has been done cross culturally, it also helps us to kind of gain more confidence in what we are doing here in our modern practices as modern witches, knowing that some of these practices go back, hundreds of years, if not even further. Okay, so there are many ways that we can build up our kind of protective layers. And so we are going to get in and start talking about these many different ways. But before I do so, I'm just going to pause and welcome those who are in the chat joining us. So I see Kurt is here, Mary Mead and Taliesin and Kelly and Rebecca. Mary Mead, everybody, and thank you for letting me know the mic is working. As you know, we are or maybe you don't know, we are approaching Mercury retrograde on Sunday. I've been noticing some tech disruptions, so I'm glad that we're here live. This is actually the third time I've tried to go live tonight, and we're actually live now. So, all right. So, and Cersei was having a little bit trouble joining. Hopefully you've found us now, and it looks like some of the chat are kind of helping to give you instructions of how to get onto the live chat. And Mary Meet Maggie is also here, and Jenny. Welcome everybody. All right, so as we go through, if you are live especially, leave us comments. Let us know, how do you do warding? How do you do protective magic? What are your go-to ways to do this? And if you hear of anything in this episode that kind of piques your interest or something you'd like to try, let us know about that as well. So the more engagement we have during the live, the further that the algorithm pushes the video. All right, so energetic and visualized wards. Okay, so this is probably the simplest thing you can do because it requires nothing but your mind and your energy, as opposed to some of these later practices we're going to talk about that are going to require us to have some tools or herbs or stones or different things like that. So this is the simplest and probably most personal way to ward. You are going to create you're going to create this ward purely with your own energy and with your own intention. So I like to create a egg or a sphere around me. This is good for protecting your physical body, but it can also be used, and I'll talk about it in a bit, how we can extend this to actually protecting an entire property or space with this type of warding as well. So what you will do if you want to do this type of warding, you'll want to close your eyes and try to go into a more centered and grounded space. Really see if you can find the energy in your core. So depending on where you consider the center of your energetic body, it's typically, most people will say either in the solar plexus or in the heart is where most people will find this to be their center. So you will close your eyes and you try to bring your attention to whatever part of your body you find to be the center of your energy. And then from there, imagine expanding that energy outward. So if it's at your solar plexus or it's at your heart, just imagine pushing that energy, your own energy, out in front of you. Imagine it creating a bubble or an egg or some kind of a sphere that encircles you in all directions. So sometimes we think of just like kind of like pushing the energy out. Imagine to pushing it up as well, and imagine pushing it down also. So you're going to continue to expand this energy out until it forms some kind of a shape. Typically, it'll form some kind of an egg or a sphere around your body. And then you're going to set an intention. Now, this is the simplest thing that you can do, but it's also one that people will just simply negate and never try because they think it's too simple. But the simple can often go a very long way. So you set an intention like this: only energies of love, wisdom, and positivity may pass through. Only energies of love, wisdom, and positivity may pass through. And you can create some kind of an intention like that that is more aligned with like whatever your words are. But the point is that it's very, very simple. And one of the things that people don't necessarily realize is, just like in the physical world, if you were to tell a person to leave you alone, most of the time, most people will leave you alone. There will be jerks who will continue to nag at you or won't respect your boundaries, of course, but most people will probably let you be. So the same thing goes with spiritual energy and in the spiritual world. Most of the time, energies, as soon as you banish them simply with your thoughts and with your intention, those energies will leave. Now, it doesn't mean that all energies will. Sometimes you'll need a little bit more, but most of the time, you can take care of your warding just through intention. So again, it's something that's so simple that many people will not even try it because they think it can't work. But really be firm in what you're saying. You can say it out loud or you can think it in your mind. Either way is a way to send thoughts out into the universe and send our intentions. Say it firmly, maybe speak it 3 times, and then just trust that you have created a ward around you. Now, the frequency of your intention and of your tone is also going to set, or of your vibe is also going to set the tone for this ward that you are creating. So what you want to consider is, where are you in your energy? Fear will create a brittle wall. Whereas if you come from strength, or love or some other positive emotion like that, it will create permeable, intelligent boundaries. Now, why this is important is that we don't want to create so much warding around us that nothing gets in. We want people to cross through that we welcome. We want energies and spirits to cross through that we also welcome, like your guides, like your ancestors, other helpful spirits around you. What we do not want is for the energies that you don't want to be there to cross through. Now, when we're very fearful, what we may inadvertently do is create boundaries that are very brittle. So, number one, they can break. Because we are kind of uncertain in our own energy, our ward isn't as strong as it could be. Another thing that can happen is we create boundaries that are impermeable, which means that all energy cannot cross through it, even the energy that we wish to be near us. But when you change your vibration, as you create your ward, you are going to create these more permeable boundaries that are intelligent enough to let the right energies pass through and block out the ones you don't want to be there. So really consider when you approach your warding, if you are coming, if you're fearful for perhaps there is something going on that has created fear for you, see if you can do some energetic work first to ground some of your fears. Grounding practices are very good. If you are kind of feeling fearful or feeling some anxious energy, consider dropping your roots down into the earth before you start this work. Anchoring yourself there can really help you. If you've never done like a grounding tree meditation before, you'll just drop roots down from whatever part of your body is touching the earth, whether it's your seat or your feet or your back if you're lying down. And then you will just let those find their way down deep into the soil and anchor you there. So that is what I have to say about creating kind of wording through your own intention and through your own thoughts. We will talk more about this in next week's episode when we do the episode on psychic self-defense, because a lot of what we do in psychic self-defense is intention, setting intentions, doing our warding through our minds and through our energies. So we will return to this, but I wanted to kind of open with this very simple kind of ward and kind of protective magic that a lot of people don't even think about. All right, so let us now get into doing house and space wards. And as I kind of segue into this, the other thing I want to mention is that what I just told you can be used, that kind of visualization and that intention setting that you do as a warding protective practice can be done not just for you, but you can do this for other people as well. So you can imagine like a bubble or an egg forming around another person. So if you want to protect your children, if you want to protect your partners or your friends or your family, or any loved ones you want to protect, you can imagine creating this ward around them as well. But you can also do the same thing around your property or around your house. So sometimes I will do this around my car. Like if I leave it in a space, like sometimes I leave it at trailheads where there are a lot of break-ins because people leave cars for long periods of time and thieves know that these are good places to break into cars. So I will ward the car before I leave. I have often warded the entire house or the entire property that we live on. So again, you can do all of this just simply with your intention and with your visualization. Okay, but let's talk about other ways that we can ward and protect the house and protect your space. So living spaces are going to need energetic warding as well, and energetic tending, just like they need physical cleansing. So just going back to that analogy of the shower, we're not going to take one shower in our life. You're not just going to hopefully clean your house one time in your life. You're going to be periodically cleaning it. So you can periodically clean and ward your house as well, energetically and spiritually. Now, what will happen is your space can pick up stuck and stagnant energy, just like your body does. That can be from outside sources. It can also just simply be from you and the people who live there. If there are fights, if there are arguments, if there are dark times, sometimes these energies will sort of settle into the space around you. If enough of that happens, eventually thought forms can be created. which are simply just energy that sort of takes on some kind of a form. It coalesces and consolidates, and it can just be like pure anxiety, pure depression, pure sadness, things like that. And so we want to try to clear out all of that we can from the space. So here are some ideas beyond the intention setting and sort of the visualization techniques we talked about at first. Here are some other ideas. So you can place protective symbols around your space. Above doors and above windows is always a very good place to put them. On thresholds. Of course, you could put them on your altar. You can put them anywhere you want, but they are typically placed at entry points of the house. So let's talk about a few symbols. Now, my list is short because the episode isn't super long. So if you are here and you have some other symbols that you like to use for warding and protection, we'd love to hear from you as well. What I love about doing the live episodes is that we have people, and the people who watch in the replay, we have the ability for people to also share their experiences, and we all learn from one another then. So the very first symbol that should come as no surprise to witches is the pentacle. So the pentacle is a symbol of protection. Within the pentacle are the four elements, as well as the fifth element, spirit, that creates all of the other elements. So this has long been known to be a protective symbol. So you can carve pentacles near your doorway. You can draw them. We're going to talk a little bit in a bit about cascaria, but you can draw them with chalk or with eggshells. You can draw them with anything, frankly, right? You can even draw them in the air if you want, because this is like energetic protection, so it doesn't necessarily have to touch the physical to be effective. Now, other symbols that we can use are runes. So if you are somebody who knows a lot about runes, you could use some of the protection runes. You can also use witches' runes. And if you don't know much about witches' runes, but that intrigues you, Google that and you will find this is a different kind of set of runes. And witches have used those for protection as well. Now, the triquetra is also a symbol that can be used. And for those who don't know what it looks like, here it is right here. So this symbol can also be used for protection, as well as the cross or the Celtic cross, and then the evil eye. And so sometimes people think inadvertently, or I guess I should say not inadvertently, but incorrectly think that the evil eye is a sign of evil. The evil eye is actually used for protection. So I'm just going to show you the one that I have here. So this was given to me, and there's actually two sides of it. I don't know if you'll be able to see much of the second side. It's not going to be super easy to see. There, you can kind of see it. So this was given to me by a woman who owns a botanica nearby, and I've been shopping at her store for a while. She likes to give gifts to her repeat customers, and so one day she dropped this in my bag. So I actually hang this nearby my computer. So that we've been spending a lot of time talking about our bodies and our property and our homes and everything like that. But if you are somebody who works online like I do and runs two online businesses, I like to hang this by the computer. So this helps to protect the digital space as well. And by the way, a lot of people don't maybe know this, but I put a ward around all of the groups that we have online. So there's a big one around the Body Mind Witchcraft group. There's one around our Shadow Seekers group, and there's one around our Coven. So I am constantly, trying to protect all of the people who have taken sanctuary in the groups that I run. And one way I'm doing that too is by having my evil eye next to the computer, so that will protect all of you guys in the digital space who are with me. Now, other things besides using symbols. So if there are any other symbols that you like to use other than the ones I've mentioned, or if you use the ones I've mentioned, let us know about that too, but share other ones that you use. Other things that we can do besides symbols is to create a salt or an eggshell line across thresholds. So you'll want to be cautious with salt if you have pets in the house. So just use a very tiny little bit, or you could do this outside again using a tiny bit. You can create a threshold across the doors. You can do this near the windows, or literally you could do a ring of this all the way around your house. Eggshells are also very good for protection. So you can take, I've not actually made this myself, but you can take eggshells that you've used from the eggs that you cook with. You crush up the eggs, and then you can make a kind of a paste or a chalk that you can then use to draw protective symbols or to line these doors at the thresholds. You can also find cascarilla in different botanicas and witchy stores. So I've seen it at many of the pretty much all of the botanicas. I've also seen it at many of the witchy stores around here. A lot of times it will just come in like a little tiny like paper cup, and it's just a piece of kind of white looking chalk, but it's made out of eggshells, and it's going to be blessed with protection usually. And you can use that to draw the symbols or to just draw lines at the thresholds of your property. So I like to use that a lot. And if you are somebody who's into sigils, then you can also draw sigils that you create yourself. Now, if you want to learn more about making sigils, now's a good time for me to drop this other episode into the chat. So this is episode 111. And in this episode, I talk about sigils and some other kind of forms of protection magic, some of which we're not going to discuss tonight. So let me just put that in the chat so you have a second resource. That also we will talk about witches' bottles in that as well. Okay, other things we can do to protect the home or our space. We can hang witches' bells to disrupt energy. So sound is very good for driving away energies that are unwelcome. So just like we talked about in the beginning, sage is very good for lifting the vibration of a space. So essentially what it means is lower vibrational things and entities and energies can't stay. They have to kind of scatter. Bells can do a similar thing, so they lift the vibration of the space. They will drive off things that are not welcome, that will kind of find them irksome or irritating, and then those energies will just go to other places. So hanging witches' bells. So you can Google this if you want to find out what they look like, but very simply, I've made them before where we just take like a wreath like that I got at Michael's. I like to actually use ribbon to create a pentacle inside of the wreath. And then you can take ribbons and you can hang little tiny bells from the bottom of the pentacle. And then you can hang that on a door handle, something like that, or hang it on a hook somewhere near your door or near the entry points of your house or outside where it can kind of ring in the wind. So that sound is going to raise the vibrations and drive off energies that are not welcome there. The witch's bottle is also a good way to create a ward. So you can go to episode 111 and learn more about how to make a witch's bottle. A witch's bottle usually is a jar or a bottle that contains kind of broken and sharp and unsavory kinds of things. People will put like bodily fluids in there, blood or pee or things like menstrual blood, pee, things like that, spit, jagged glass, sharp nails, rusty things. And so the idea is that you fill the jar with it. You then usually fill the rest of the jar with water, and then you bury it somewhere on the property. If you don't have a property where you can bury something, for example, you live in an apartment building or something like that, you can always get a big planter and you can put the witch's bottle in the planter. Usually witch's bottles are not meant to be removed. So when I leave, I just leave them buried on that property. I don't dig them back up. But if you want to learn more about how to make a witch's bottle, check out episode 111, and I go into more detail about that. Other things that we can do is anoint our doorways and our thresholds of the property or parts of the house or rooms that you feel need to have like a lift in their energy. You can anoint those with protective oils. So some protective oils that I really like are rosemary, clove, and cedar, though I don't really use clove as much anymore. I just actually don't like the scent of it. I would prefer rosemary. I think dragon's blood too is one of my favorite for protections. So not a pure essential oil, but a resin instead. But you will notice in a lot of protection oils that I have smelled, I will often smell dragon's blood in it. So what you want to do is consider first charging any of the items that you are going to be using. So any of these tools that you're choosing to use, whether it's the bells or oils or cascarilla, like if you're going to do chalk or something like that, you can charge the items first by visualizing them glowing with energy, protective energy. So again, this kind of comes back to what we were saying in the beginning. So much, it goes a long way, what you can do with your own intention and with your own energy, your own mind. So consider charging them, visualizing them being filled with that glowing white energy, perhaps whispering a spell or an incantation to them. One that I particularly like is Ekonkar, and I'm going to put for those who don't know Ekonkar, the incantation Ekonkar, I'm going to put it into the chat right now. And if you're on YouTube later, these will also be in the comments under the video. So Ekonkar Satkartar Gurbar Akal. Akunkar Satkartar Satkartar Gurbar Akal. This is known to be the mantra of supernatural protection, and it is said that it was used by Sikh soldiers long ago who, when faced with like overwhelming amount of enemies against them, would go into these battles like 10 to 1. They were outnumbered and they would come out nearly unscathed. They believe because they chanted this chant before they went into battle. So I think this is a great one. Whenever I feel like I really need protection and I really need it fast, I use Ekonkar, but it can also be used to kind of charge any of these other tools or items that you're using in your warding and your protection. You can call upon your guides or your spirit allies as well to kind of help you to fill these tools with protective energy, strength in numbers, right? So why not call upon our guides? Because they're always willing to help. So what kind of household warding do you do? Do you ward your house? Do you re-strengthen those wards periodically? When's the last time you did a warding of your house, of your property, of your space? So share in the chat and let us know. Before I move on to the next section where we're going to talk about working with some plant and stone allies in our protection magic, I'm just going to go back to the chat. Kurt said he likes to use black salt. Black salt is really great. Different colored salts can be used. Some people just use traditional table salt or sea salt, pink Himalayan salt. Black salt is also really great. I like to use it in the witches bottles as well. Taliesin said he has a couple of evil eyes. He wears his pentacle for protection and a hamsa that he was given. Yeah, so share in the chat what other ways that that you like to do protective magic. How do you protect your house? And do you ward your house? When is the last time you did a warding of your house? And if you haven't done one ever, my assignment to you, my challenge to you will be to do one with some of the stuff you've learned in this episode. Okay, so moving on, working with magical allies and with, in particular, with herbs and stones. So I mentioned a few a little bit earlier, but let's go into a little more detail. Rosemary is considered a classic protective herb. I like to use rosemary because it's easy to find. You don't have to have special apothecaries or witchcraft stores around you to get rosemary. You can just get it at the grocery store. So it's an excellent one to use in your protection magic. Mugwort can be a little harder to find, but if you can find it, it is good as a psychic shield. So I actually like using mugwort like a sage bundle, so a sage stick, but instead of sage, it's mugwort. We have sent this out to, I'm not sure if every initiate in our online coven has received this, but many have received it. So we like to send out mugwort. Mugwort can be used to kind of enhance your dreams and your psychic abilities, but it's also very, very good as a psychic shield. So very good in protection magic. And if you get one of those that's kind of bundled like a sage stick, you can walk it around your space, around your property. and that will also help to ward your area. Rue is another good herb for banishing. And bay leaf, while we often think of bay leaf as like blessings, bay leaf can also be used for guarding. So I like, those are kind of my go-to herbs. I used to use clove, but I don't really like the smell of clove anymore, so I don't really use that. But clove is also very purifying and therefore very good for energetic protection. So what could you do with the herbs? And also any other herbs that people like to use for protection that I haven't mentioned, put those in the chat. What can we do with these herbs for protection? We can make sachets. We can just simply hang the dried herbs. When we moved into this house, there is some dried sage just hanging upside down in the bathroom. So sometimes herbs can just be hung as just as they are as a protective measure. You can sprinkle the herbs around your thresholds just like you would do with chalk. So with the eggshell. So you can grind them up and make some kind of like a little blend of them, and then you can sprinkle them around the thresholds. Again, being careful if you have pets that could potentially eat this or lick it up. Just be mindful and careful of that. You can also make protective sprays or oils. So I really like the idea of making protective sprays because they are a little bit safer to kind of, especially if you have pets, if you are like sprinkling all of the herbs, those herbs are just going to stay there. If you make an oil, you're just going to spray the area and then it's going to dissipate over time. So if you've never made a protective spray before, you could just get a small spray bottle. I would recommend if you can find one that is dark colored, like dark blue or black. It's just better to not have sunlight be able to pass through it. But if all you can find is just a clear spray bottle, that can work here as well. You're going to need some kind of a carrier oil to use, or some kind of a carrier to use with your essential oils, because the essential oils are so strong. They need to be cut very, very deeply with some kind of a carrier. So a carrier that is really good to use is witch hazel. It's easy to find. You can also use high proof alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. You can get at the drugstore is a really good choice, but people have used vodka. You can also use distilled water. So this is the bulk of what the spray is. And then you will add drops of your essential oil to the spray to the strength that you desire. So a little goes a long way. If you've never worked with essential oils, I would just put a few drops in to start, shake it up, spray it, smell it, see if it's the strength that you want, and you can add a little bit more if you want more. But I really love making sprays like this. I also love buying them. I have a really awesome one that I get from a store near here, an apothecary near here. I carry that in my bag. When I leave my car parked places, I spray it inside and outside of the car. I'll spray myself if I'm going hiking or walking when it's kind of dark, or in places where I'm kind of isolated. So there's a lot of things that we can do with protective sprays. You can spray your house, you could spray your thresholds, your doors, your windows. So other things that you can do as well is not just using the herbs, you can also use crystals. So black tourmaline, obsidian, any of the black stones are good for protection. Labradorite, tiger's eye is very good and also connects you to your root chakra. So if you're having a lot of fear, then you could use tiger's eye as not only a protective stone, but also as a grounding stone. Selenite and quartz are also always very good for protection. So what you can do with these stones, number one, is if you have very small like chips of the stone, you can place it in the spray bottle with your herbs and your carrier, and then the stones will add to the energy of the herbs, and you kind of like compound this whole effect, right? Other things that you can do with the stones is place them at the doors and at the windows. Just place them on the window sills, place them near the doors, add them to your sachet. If you make a protective sachet, you can add them to that. Carry them with you on your person or wear them in your jewelry, and then these will continue to just reverberate, that wording, which is your intention. Now remember that it's not the herb and the stone itself. It's not the physical manifestation of it that actually is protecting you. It is your relationship with the spirit of that energy. So consider doing some kind of workings with the plants or with the stone allies that you choose. Do some meditation with them. Just see what comes up for you. If you've never communed with plant energy or stone energy before, it's worth trying this, especially if you're interested in using tools like this. See what kinds of images or thoughts or feelings come up. And just see what it feels like to commune with those energies. As you commune with those energies, you create a relationship with them, which is then going to further strengthen the types of wards you make when you use stones and herbs in your protection magic. So again, in the chat, let us know what kind of stones and herbs do you use? How do you use them? Have you ever made a protection oil before, protection oil or spray before? Taliesin said he uses a ton of sage and mugwort. Yeah, those are like two of the biggest go-to ones for a reason, because they are so effective. Jenny says that she has layers of protection, visualization, sigils, runes written with protection oil, Florida water, eggshell chalk, hanged charged herbs in the house, crystals on the main corners, burns incense almost daily. Yeah, and so that was something I wanted to mention as well, is that you can layer these different methods that we're talking about. So like Jenny said, she's like using a lot of the ones that we talked about for a reason. It's because as you layer them, you create a stronger and stronger ward around your space, around you, and your protective magic is going to be that much more effective. Kurt said he uses 4 old iron railroad ties. They're buried at each corner of the property, so that is a good folk magic protective practice as well that many people use. As far as herbs and herbs go, Taliesin says mandrake, vervain, lavender, palo santo, blessed thistle, and juniper berries are some that he uses to cleanse and protect. And then remember, just reminding people that the cleansing is where you are going to cleanse yourself of unwanted energy. And then when we're doing the warding, we are basically creating the protective layer that prevents those energies from re-entering our field or reattaching to us. So you can use the herbs as cleansing. So like there's many herbs that are very, very good for cleansing. Sage is one of them. Palo Santo, those are very good. Lavender, very, very good for cleansing. And then you can follow it up with whatever you're going to do for warding. So I would like follow it up with like someone like Taliesin is saying mandrake. The mugwort would also be very good. Clove, if you like the smell of clove. All right, so keep it coming in the chat. We love hearing from you guys. So let's talk about refreshing and maintaining our wards. So just like I talked about earlier, you don't take a shower once in your lifetime and you don't clean your house once in your lifetime, hopefully. So just like that, our wards, they are not permanent. So the energy will dissipate over time no matter how strong you are. So like if you look at what Jenny had said, she's burning incense almost daily and she has all these different layers of protection around her space. So this is because these wards will begin to dissipate over time and we want to continually be re-strengthening them and recreating the layers, which is what the continual burning of the incense can be about, is we're just kind of like reinforcing the wards that we've already created. So knowing that wards aren't permanent, we want to think about ways to re-strengthen them every once in a while. Know that they can fade and they can shift as energy changes. So you can do all kinds of protection around your space. And then there can be a streak of time where there's kind of like some bad luck, or there can be a lot of fighting, or there can be a lot of dark and heavy energies, and those things settle into you and they settle into your space. So when you notice that you've gone through periods of time like that, where there's a lot of darkness, where there's a lot of kind of depressive energy, blackness, things like that, that would be a good time to know to refresh the wards. But another thing that you can do is just periodically be refreshing them. So like refresh them every dark or new or full moon. Or some point in the cycle that you will remember to do it. So like some people will, like I mentioned earlier, will do it at the start of every Sabbath season. Regular cleanse, you can do regular cleansing. Let's talk about how to refresh the wards and how to recharge them. So regular cleansing, so smoke, sound, or water cleansing are the easiest ones. So kind of go around the house, do some kind of smoke cleansing or sound cleansing to kind of start. So you're just basically knocking off, clearing off the energies that have attached there that are the lower frequencies that you don't want near you. Once you have done that, then you can begin to refresh the ward. Refreshing the ward is going around. So, like, let's say you have something that you've already made, like the sachet, for example, or like Kurt had said, the iron railroad ties at the corners of the houses, or the witch's bottle that somebody might bury in the yard. So what you could do is you can go to those locations where you've done the warding, and you can stand there in that spot, and you can either through your own energy and your own intentions kind of refresh them, or through spoken word you can refresh them. But just doing something like, I refresh this ward, I recharge the energy of this protective magic, just something intentionally that is going to recharge the thing that you created at some time. Now, if you're doing something with like the cascarilla or chalk, you could just redraw that. Anything that you're drawing, sprinkling salt, things like that, you could just redo. But if it is something permanent, like a permanent fixture that's a ward, you can just always refresh it through intention and through words and thoughts. You could do echo. You could whisper echo and car to it if you like that mantra. So another thing that you can do is, well, let me just show you a little practice. It just takes an instant. So this would be a way that you could refresh a ward. So just place your hand on your heart and close your eyes, or place it on your solar plexus if you feel like that's the center of your body. So wherever you feel your center is, place your hand there. And then you just would take a deep inhale in. And then as you exhale, just imagine white light or purifying energy just emanating from you through your breath. Imagine it entering that object, whatever it is that you want to refresh or recharge. You can do that a couple of times. I would do it like 3 times. So inhaling and then exhaling, kind of that white purifying light. Imagine it permeating and filling the object. And then you can say something like, be strong, be steady, be protective, whatever it is that comes to you, just something very simple. And then just trust that you have recharged the ward. So again, sometimes people will second guess themselves here. They're like, did I really do it? And so if you have a lot of doubts about your own magic, about your own abilities, really consider working more with the solar plexus and really trying to increase your self-belief, working with the fire element. Otherwise, when it comes to this kind of magic, you do it and you got to walk away and just trust that it's been done. The protection is there. You are safe. You are secure. You are protected. Now, one of the biggest pitfalls that people will have when it comes to protection magic is to letting their sort of emotions slide into fear and paranoia. So we talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but it's worth reiterating this here at the end. Fear will always contract energy. And so we want empowerment or belief in ourselves, or some kind of a positive emotion. That is the type of thing that is going to expand energy. So we don't want so much of that contracting fear to know that we are stable and secure. We want to step into this kind of magic with empowerment. So the protection should not isolate you. It shouldn't create spaces where you're afraid to go places or go out, or have people like cross through your wards. Like, remember, if your wards are strong, they are permeable, intelligently permeable. Like I talked about, they allow the right energy through, and they create the boundaries that blocks out the energy that you don't want there. So always kind of think about where am I coming from? What is my intention? Where is my energy at right now? How could I ground this energy so that I feel more empowered and less fearful? Your protection magic should help you feel safe, and able to connect freely if you in whatever way you want to. So here's something to think about. A healthy immune system does not attack everything that it discerns, right? So it's not attacking all things. It's only attacking the things that we don't want in our bodies, but it's leaving behind the good bacteria and the good things. So that's the kind of protection magic you want to think about creating, those permeable boundaries that are selectively permeable, that you control through empowerment and not through fear. Energetic sovereignty is how you take control of your energy. You have so much more power and control than you ever imagine. And I know that sometimes it feels like we don't. Sometimes it feels like things are out of control, that we don't have control. Things are kind of being done to us. But you really get to decide what belongs in your space and what doesn't. So, again, if that's hard for you to kind of digest, really think about working with, in particular, your solar plexus and your heart chakra, and really strengthening those, strengthening your self-belief, your self-compassion, um, your self-confidence. And then I think you'll find that your protection magic becomes that much more stronger. So here's just a little reflection for you here. What does empowerment feel like in your body? So I think that's important to consider. What does it feel like to be empowered when we're doing this kind of work? What does fear-based protection feel like? Have you ever done protection out of fear? And how did that feel as opposed to when you do protection magic out of empowerment? So just a little bit of food for thought for you here at the end. And my assignment for you is to choose a protection practice to implement this week. So it's the start of Samhain season. We're a couple of days into Samhain. This is a great time for you to create wards if you've never created them before, or refresh the ones that you already have up. So think about, what would you do to implement some protection magic in your space, around you, around somebody else at this time. So to share in the chat, what is you going to do for your assignment this week? Maybe also, like I said, refreshing any of the wards that you already have. So if you have something at your front door, or if you've crafted a protection sachet already, maybe re-strengthening that, refreshing that, or if you've never made one before, now's a good time to make one. So share in the chat what you are going to do. And you can also tell us, what is your favorite protection tool, or do you have any experience with any of the wards that you have created? So we'd love to hear from you. Like I said, next week we'll be diving into psychic self-defense for empaths and witches. Here we'll talk more about how to kind of protect our own energy, less about our space, more about us and our energetic boundaries. We're going to be talking about empowered shielding and emotional shielding. We're going to be talking about cord cuttings. We'll be talking about managing empathetic or empathic overload. So those of you who are extremely sensitive to energies, especially around this time of the year, you may start to feel other people's energies sort of building up in your aura. So how can we manage that overload? So you'll learn about that in next week's episode, as well as different practices for spiritual hygiene. So I'm going to shift into the Q&A right now, but I hope that you enjoyed learning about warding and protection magic. Of course, share your experiences with us. I'm going to go to the chat now. I do have a really good question that was sent to me that we'll be talking about in just a moment, but let's go to the chat now. So Cersei said she makes oils and incense sachets. She says, when I move in, I put a protective stone at the four corners. I wear my pentacle, and I have a pentacle tattoo. Yeah, so tattoos as well as sigils, and we can even you can actually get a sigil tattooed onto your body, but those are like permanent protection magic that we have on our person. Rebecca said she has anointed her house, thresholds, windowsills with oil on the outside. She says she will usually smudge on the inside. She said, I put a line of salt at my entryways and windowsills. So a lot of good practices here, similar to the ones we've been talking about. Maggie says she has witch bells in her front. She has plants, a snake plant. She said the root plant is good when someone with bad energy comes to your house. So the root will absorb that energy. She said, I mop my floors with the from the back to the front with ammonia or sour herbs, and then from the front clockwise with sweet herbs or flowers that and with cold water. She said I also put in a higher place sea salt and 9 garlic cloves to protect and absorb negative energy. She said I make my own Florida water for Teaves oil and also use white sage. So a lot of awesome practices that people are using. Now, Maggie said, how can I protect my hair? So I think you could protect your hair through, I would make like a protection spray with good oils that are good for the hair. Like rosemary, you can't really go wrong with rosemary in the hair. So you could make some kind of a protective spray with rosemary and any other oils that you want, and then spray your hair. And then just again, when you create the oil, create it with the intention of protecting your hair. But I think that's a great idea. A lot of great protection practices people are doing. Cersei said she is planning to do a sachet and a protective witch's ladder. She also wants to learn how to make protective spider webs like dream catchers. Yeah, so that's a good goal, right, for your assignment for the week. Very, very good. All right, so you can keep your comments coming. Any other ways that you do protection, magic, or warding, or anything you're going to try as we move into Samhain season. Let's move on to this question. This question is from Rachel, and she said, how do you know that you are ready for shadow work? So, a very good question. How does a person know that it's time to do shadow work, and when would they potentially decide to wait or hold off on doing it? So I'm just first very briefly going to mention what shadow work is for anybody who doesn't know. Shadow work is going into our unconscious in order to find what is there. Sometimes there will be reactions that we have, automatic reactions, automatic thoughts, limiting beliefs that we might have, urges, reactions that we have to people or to places or situations, and they feel like they come out of nowhere. So if you've ever had any of those feelings kind of arise in you, like it's worth it's worth reflecting on those and trying to identify where they come from. So during shadow work, we dive deep into the unconscious and we try to find the origin of where some of this comes from. It disempowers it kind of severs the connection between the origin of where it comes from, and then like kind of the trigger in the present, and it will make us feel as though we are more empowered, and I shouldn't say it makes us feel, as we will feel more empowered, and we will become more empowered because we're more in control of our own energy. So there's a lot in our shadow. The shadow is all of the things that we have broken off and rejected from our own persona. Most of it took place when we were very little, before we even knew any of this was happening. It can come from the messages we learned from parents, caregivers, the church, teachers, about how to be a good person, what to do to be good, right? But there are emotions and there are parts of us that maybe don't align with those visions of who we were supposed to become. So, for example, jealousy and anger, these are like emotions that people don't like. We're supposed to just kind of eradicate them from us, right? But those are natural emotions that we all experience. So when we do our shadow work, we kind of sever that connection of those messages and those limiting beliefs from the past, and then we feel like more empowered. We can step into who we really are. So, how would a person decide it was time for shadow work? So, I have several thoughts on this. So, first, if a person is asking the question, I would assume that they are inching closer and closer to being ready for shadow work. If you are not ready for shadow work, usually it won't even enter your field. Your vibrational field, your sphere, wherever you are, it won't even enter you. So if you kind of think back to when is the first time you ever learned about shadow work, that probably is when you started to become receptive and ready to doing shadow work. So if you are somebody who is very aligned and connected to your own energy and your own path, the path unfolds as you are ready. So like when you are ready to learn something, you know, the teachers emerge, or the material emerges, or the groups emerge, or like experiences or synchronicities will emerge that help to lead you further down that path. So the shadow work path is no different. Once the question sort of enters your frame of reference, the path begins. Now, you may find as you enter that path, you start to think about it. You know, the next thing you would need to do is learn how to do it. And in there, this would be an important question to kind of ask yourself about being ready is like, where are you emotionally? So somebody who is very, very um, maybe having a lot of trouble regulating their emotions might not be super ready for the hard shadow work yet. So if somebody's going through a lot of really painful stuff, their emotions are all over the place, shadow work could potentially make it worse, though it's probably what it'll just do is just not really do anything or not really make it any better. So if somebody's really in that kind of dysregulated emotional state, I would recommend doing some therapy, doing some other kinds of work, getting a therapist, finding a group therapy group that you could be part of, and just do some work on yourself, and then begin to do the deeper dive into shadow work. Provided that you're feeling like your emotions are pretty stable and you're doing okay with them. I mean, of course, we all have fluctuations up and down, but you know those times like when you're just kind of totally dysregulated, those are probably not the best times for shadow work. Provided that you are not there, and shadow work is in your field of kind of influence, then I would think that you are ready for shadow work. So then the next question is, how would someone begin? And one of the simplest things to do is do it regularly. I think the easiest place to begin is with some of the shadow work prompts. One of the easiest ones is just like, what's upsetting to you? Or think of the last thing that kind of like really ruffled your feathers or irritated you. I shared this either last week or the week before. There was a parent who I don't know, texted me some stuff one day, and she's the parent of one of my students, and it just really my anger. I just could feel like visceral, like it just really upset me what she was saying. And so for me, that is something to explore. What was behind it? It's probably much deeper than just this like surface thing that's happening between the kid and me and the parent. It's probably going back to something much further back, something deeper into my childhood. It could be bringing up other relationships in the past. All of this, of course, being done unconsciously. And so when we do our shadow work, we start to just trace that back. So what I recommend people do is like every dark moon, because the dark moon is very aligned to shadow work, or every crescent moon, waning crescent, think about doing a little shadow work by just taking a shadow work prompt. You can find them online, or you just do the one I gave you. You know, what's the last thing that really irked and irritated you, and then just do some reflection. You can journal. You can talk into the notes memo on your phone and just like kind of talk it out. You can do some walking around and just thinking. You can lay in a really restful kind of meditative space and kind of contemplate, and then just see what comes up and be gentle with yourself. But that's a good way to get started if you feel that it's time to get started. So if you are hopefully that helps. If you have other further questions about kind of how to know when to begin shadow work or what to do, definitely reach out. I'm also going to drop a link in the chat with my video intro to shadow work for anybody who feels like they're called to the path and doesn't know where to begin. This video is a full-length workshop, and it is a good place to start. It will give you some ideas, and hopefully one or more of those will resonate with you and get you started on the path. All right, hope that helps. Any other questions, drop them in the chat. Questions don't have to be about witchcraft, shadow work, or energy work. They can be, they don't have to be about protection magic. They can be about anything related to witchcraft, shadow work, or energy work. Jason said he wears I'm not sure if I know how to pronounce that, Petersite stone, and my pentacle everywhere. He said, I left them once at home and I felt like I was naked in public. Recently, I always wear like a labradorite, but I've just sort of shifted to wearing this lapis, and sometimes I do feel like a little like naked without my labradorite when I'm out in big groups of people. So I know that my labradorite was working as it's kind of a ward just to clear out the negative energy, any energy I don't want in my field. So I definitely understand what Jason's saying. Like sometimes you leave behind the things you're using for your protection, and you can really feel it. Um, any other questions? Put them in the chat. Let me just let you know what is coming up. So, like I said, next week we are going to do an episode. I believe it's next week. We're going to do the episode on psychic protection for, or was that psychic protection for empaths and witches? And so that is coming up next. And then I think the following week there's going to be an episode on doing some past life work. So, how do you get started with past life work? We also have the Demystifying Witchcraft course coming soon. It's all dependent on how quickly I can get the website up and running, since I'm not really a web designer, but that is my project right now. Once we have that up, the course is ready to go. Demystifying Witchcraft is my signature course. It teaches you the foundations of witchcraft, from casting a circle to calling quarters to working with deities, doing spells, living in the cycles of the seasons. It is an organic and growing course, which means that I continue to add to it, and in fact plan to teach it live next year. But anybody who purchases it now gets not only what's there now, but also the new stuff I add to it next year. So it's a good time to get it. Hopefully it'll be coming out in the next week or two. That is my goal. And then our Shadow Seekers membership will be opening up at the very end of November. This is our Black Friday offer that we do every year. There's going to be a really good offer this year, and this is really probably, if I have to say this, the best time to get into the membership now if you're not already in it, because the price is, we are contemplating increasing the price substantially next year. But anybody who gets in now locks in the price that it's at right now. Shadow Seekers is a monthly membership for those who really want to take their spiritual practice to the next level, learn how to do shadow work, learn how to do energy work, learn how to balance your energy, and increase your intuition, your trust in yourself, your trust in your abilities, your self-belief, your connection to your higher self and your spirit guide. So all of that, it's a very transformative membership. It's for those who are ready to take things to the next level. So check that out when that arrives at the end of the month. And I think that's about all I have for you tonight. As always, it is great to spend time with you. I see Cersei said, "Hi, Kitty." I think that was baby Corey was behind me. So leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed. That will help us get this out to more people. And also, if you are not already on our mailing list, I'm just going to drop this link in the chat. So you can sign up and you will get a free copy of The Witch's Guide to Shadow Work sent to you. I'm just going to find this here, drop this in the chat. If you're watching back on YouTube later, this will just be in the description of the video. You'll be able to find it there. So sign up, and this way you will never miss a future episode or any of the new things that are coming. And until next time, blessed be.